House prices across Australia have dropped for the first time in 6 years, with Sydney and Melbourne leading the fall. Property expert Andrew Wilson joins me now. Andrew, good morning to you. Prices fell 0.7% nationally. Now, was that expected?
Well, I think that we're certainly in this lower trend we've seen over the past year. Mixed results. Most capitals were around about plus or minus 1%, but it's certainly the Sydney market which has recorded the worst results, down by 4.1% over the year. And it was 4 quarters in a row now that we've seen lower prices in Sydney, and 2 quarters in a row for Melbourne. So certainly a trend there. Softer market, not falling, but certainly easing.
So Sydney and Melbourne particularly affected. How did Brisbane fare?
Well, Brisbane picked up over the quarter, and prices are higher in Brisbane now compared to a year ago. So, but look, most markets have settled. They're easy. They're not really falling, except for that Sydney market. And we've had a very soft start to spring, so likely to continue.
Soft in Perth as well?
Well, look, Perth is flat, and I think it's stopped falling. It has been, but it was falling. Now it's flat. So it's, you know, as I said, with most other markets, just sort of trundling along, not doing very much at all.
So Adelaide and Hobart, the preferable cities to buy in at the moment, would you say?
Well, look, Hobart's still a hot market, but it's coming from a long way back. Still the most affordable market in the country, but I think it'll ease eventually as well. Nothing's going to change. Interest rates will remain largely where they are. Economies are pretty strong, migration's strong, but you know, markets are tired. We have buyer and seller fatigue, particularly in Sydney and Melbourne. For
those who are perhaps in a position where they really have to sell or need to sell at the moment, what would be your advice? Would it be to, if possible, hold off?
Well, look, personal agendas mean perhaps you have to, if you know that things have to, you have to get a sale, but it's going to be a lot tougher to find a buyer through the spring market. But you know, most buyers are sellers and sellers are buyers, so swings and roundabouts. What you have to drop as a seller, you perhaps pick up as a buyer. But certainly we're in for the toughest spring market we've had since the GFC.
It's got off to a very quiet start, hasn't it?
Well, it has. Listings are down, clearance rates are down, and the actual value of properties being sold is down in Sydney 50% and in Melbourne down 25%. So that means there's less money flowing through the system, and that has some really serious consequences for the industry, because of course they work from the value of properties sold, and when it's down so significantly, there's not as much to go around.
All right, and the forecast?
Well, it's flat and low going forward, but nothing's going to change. So you've got to buy, you've got to sell, just get on with business. But we can understand why it's a very wary market at the moment, but we're in this transition from the roller coaster boom and bust environment of decades into this longer term flat doing nothing type of a housing market.
So it's sort of normalised, in other words?
It is normalised. A lot of people are saying that at the moment, but we need, I guess, confidence just to realise that and to pick up a little bit. But all the key drivers are strong. Demand is strong. First home buyers, migration. Our economies are doing very well at the moment. But so it's not a big bag of money. It's a roof where you live, and it's somewhere you have to sustain yourself, other than you know, make the sort of capital gains we've had over previous decades.
All right, good information, Andrew. Thank you very much.
Georgie.
Let's get the sport now. Here's Tim.
A lot of noise under our roof with the kids going crazy. And